And that phone call is why I'm making this video right now. Um, so I haven't made any videos this week until last night, and then I went on for an hour and a half about whatever. And I was thinking this morning when I woke up that I'm not going to upload it because that was just far too many tangents, even for me. Some really nice stories, I think, but if all of my Patreon supporters can go to my secret page. No, I don't have Patreon. I am my Patreon. So, I do not have a secret Patreon site that you guys have to pay $9.99 or 99 cents a month to get access to my Patreon. The Patreon sponsors today are me. So, and again, I'm not making fun of those people who do have Patreons. This is what they want to do for a living, and I'm fully supportive because I support some Patreons that I really want to. Tangent, because I want their for crying out, the words just poof out of my head every once in a while. I want to watch their content. I want to watch their content, so I'm going to send them some dineros, and obviously like and subscribe. Again, not me, unless you want to, but I'm going to support those people. I take their content, I watch it, it does something for me, it makes me happier or whatever it does for me. It's what I want to do, and so therefore I am willing to exchange my money for their goods and services. We'll call it a service. That's the capitalistic way. Hey, dude, I like what you put out there in the world, and therefore I'm going to pay for it now, because that's what they want to do for money. Me, I don't do this for money. I really don't. I do this because I just like, hey, camera, how's it going, world, and blah, blah, blah. And the few friends that I got out there want to watch this stuff, and I will make content until the cows come home and not take a dime for it, because that's not why I do this. Again, I bring back the whole analogy of my dad's slideshows, and my dad put lots of effort into his slideshows. He never did not put effort. Oh, I have to do a slideshow in a couple of weeks at the scuba club or at the Boy Scout club or at the men's club or whatever. And he would and he'd put them in order and blah, blah, blah. And he'd have a story or music. He would always set music sometimes. One of my favorite experiences was Chariots of Fire had just come out, 1980, whatever it was. And my dad was doing a slideshow of his underwater stuff. And I could be mixing my stories in my head because it was a long time ago. But he got the soundtrack, The Chariots of Fire. And that should not demonetize me. Yeah, like it. So I don't have to worry about this stuff. I can make as much fun of it as I want. Because and he put a slideshow, the scuba slides, the fish and the underground and the shipwrecks and blah, blah, blah. And actually, that also reminds me, Dad took all of us Boy Scouts who did the scuba program to Toronto to a scuba convention. Basically, they had a convention for scuba divers. And we went, and the main presentation was a camera crew up in the Arctic. It's probably National Geographic or something thereof, and they were trying to film, I can't remember which whale it was, but there was a whale that was very elusive to being filmed, and they were up there for weeks, and the guy goes into this little documentary style thing, and we're up there in the snow blizzard and the tents and the cameras, like all that stuff, and they put on their gear, they don the rubber suit, as Jacques Cousteau would say, they don the rubber suit and they descend into the depths. I love my old Jacques Cousteau story. I love Jacques Cousteau, but that's a tangent on a tangent. Anyway, so this camera crew's up there, and there's a break in the ice about 80, 100 feet wide, and the ice flows wherever they are. It could be Bering Strait. I don't know where they are. It was 1981. and so they're up there for weeks, and they're trying to get this whale on the camera and blah, blah, blah. And so the guy's got his full suit on, and he's got the camera, and of course back then the rigs are a lot bigger. I mean, you can get a GoPro now, like I don't have one within reach, but usually I do. But they had the big camera, and they hand it to the guy, and he's in the water, and he's pushing himself out to the middle of this open kind of river, and the ice flows. It's not a river, it's just a split in the ice. and they're just giving up hope that they're going to get this whale on the film, and the guy's out there and he's ready to go down, and all of a sudden, like, not 300 feet in front of him, the whale breaches the water in that little ice flow, in that little river, and it's coming straight towards him, and they're filming this from the ice, right? And there's this camera guy with the black rubber suit, and there's this massive whale that's taken up the entire width of the ice flow, like the river, between the water, the exposed water between the ice, and like, that's right. I love the way documentaries do that. There's a whole bunch of documentaries that I watched in my youth that I still remember to this day. The one about the B-29, I mentioned it years ago, but it's one of my favorite, absolute favorite, heartwarming and yet sad documentaries at the same time. The B-29 that was abandoned out there in the tundra of wherever, Greenland or whatever, and they're trying to get it home. That's just 2 hours of sadness for me. I haven't seen it in decades, so again, but I just remember it just being absolutely fantastically well done documentary, and somebody died because they're in the middle of nowhere and you have an appendicitis or whatever you're going to have. The nearest civilization is not just 6 hours away, it's 10 days away by dog sled. Like, you're not getting out of there if something happens. But anyway, so this camera guy in the middle of the ice flow, the whale's coming towards him, and they get some beautiful footage and blah blah blah. And that was, and they're playing the Chariots of Fire theme on it. So it's like, nicely done. Like, anything that like makes me misty and makes me shed a tear, and I don't care how contrived. I do care how contrived that is. But I'm an emotional guy. I've never shied away. Even when I was a kid, I've talked about this before. I'm an emotional guy. I'm great all the time. I'm not a blithering, blubbering, whatever. But when it's appropriate, I'll shed a tear. I have no problem. I don't feel less manly by crying. I cry during commercials. There was an old commercial years ago, and I think it was a Coke commercial. I mean, I can't remember. I think they got the sports ball player throwing the towel to the kid. Like, and the way they set it up, that's poignant. Anything that's poignant, that has outside meaning of what they're trying to sell, sign me up. You guys make the best commercials. I'm gonna appreciate them. And sometimes they're gonna make me weepy, and sometimes they're gonna make me laugh, and sometimes whatever. Anyway, I have no problem hiding my emotions. Now, I try to make sure my emotions are appropriate. I don't try to be, over the top, like, look at me, I'm crying. Like, I don't want people to see me crying for the sake of seeing me crying. But if I'm at a funeral, and like, I will say, and this gets to where I'm going with this, because this is a tangent that's leading to my topic today and why I haven't made a video in a couple of days. My mom's been gone for 11 years now. Her birthday was the other day, and that's when I made the video, and I'm not uploading it. So I don't want to go on too long, because that was way too long. My mom's been gone for 11 years now, and I did her eulogy, and it was poignant. Not my eulogy. They've yammering on. That's right. Because if you haven't noticed, I do tend to yammer on, but I've done 2 eulogies so far in my life, one for my mom and one for my friend Bill, and I put a lot of effort into both. It wasn't my usual stand there, wait till the last minute and then jot a few things on a piece of paper and stand up and speak about it, because I'm not that guy. I'm not a good, unless it's this and it's casual, I'm not good at off the cuff poignant stuff. I have to think about it and ruminate, and that's, I've talked about this before, I have to ruminate and pontificate and write down, and I get some ideas. And usually what happens, just like when I wrote the book, is I'll get all the points down and I go, oh, that should be up here, that should, like, I build each paragraph kind of as a standalone snippet, and I go, oh, that's more appropriate, and I reorganize. My buddy Bill's eulogy that I wrote took me weeks. He was very important to me and my friends, and I spent a lot of time editing, and then I got to the point where it was good. It's good enough. Put a lot of effort into it. So anyway, my mom would have been 80 a couple days ago, and she died during Cup Camp weekend. which is coming up in May. And so every May, since I was, my earliest memories was Cub Camp weekend, which was important to the family, for our family. So really quick, this is the Coles Notes version that I spent an hour and a half on. So she's supposed to be at Cub Camp. She was packing for Cub Camp. She was planning for Cub Camp, and my mom put lots of effort, just like I did with my eulogies. My mom put lots of effort into anything she was going to do for this kind of stuff. So she spent weeks getting ready for Cub Camp. I'm in bed sleeping Saturday morning on Cub Camp weekend, because I haven't officially bothered with Cub Camp in a decade or more. But if my mom needed help, I'm going to be there for her. Like, she needs help because she's getting older. She was getting older at the time. Needs help loading the van, whatever else, or the truck. Even going to Cub Camp, I've stopped by Camp Pataskawon. Fantastic place. A few times to help her unload. I'm not going to be there for the weekend because I'm not a leader and I'm not interested in being a leader, but I'm going to help my mom. Before I was like a leader, like I was in Cubs for like 25 years, or Boy Scouts Canada for 25 years. As a Cub Scout venture leader for my mom and whatever. So anyway, so I get this call from Mr. Well, I won't use his name. A friend of the family, very good friend, very good and dear friend. And he goes, Dave. And I go, hey, friend of the family. He goes, your mom's not here. Like, my mom missing Cub Camp weekend is like the Pope missing communion. It's like, if that's appropriate, I'm not Catholic. My mom missing Cub Camp weekend is like unheard of in the history of the echelon, the massive history of Cub camps here in Southern Ontario. Okay, thank you for calling friend of the family and leader of the Boy Scouts Canada. I'll go over. I called, nobody answers. I go over. Knock on the door, pound on the door, kick in the door. That was a sequence of events, because I now have as some people would say, I have a really bad feeling about this. And it turned out to be true. So I found my mom unalived, not purposely, so that's a blessing, but she was not there with us anymore. And yeah, and then the sequence of events happens after that. She had passed away over the evening. Packing for Cub Camp weekend, and again, Coles Notes version is, I believe, this is just from my scoping out the apartment and scoping out where she was. She had all the stuff piled ready to go down to the truck. I don't know when she was supposed to be at Cub Camp, Friday night or Saturday morning, but she wasn't a leader of a pack anymore. She was usually the, I will call it the social commuter. She is the arts and crafts and games and stuff for the entire Cub Camp weekend for all the different troops that were there. That's where she excelled. I mean, she was a great leader too. She was my Cub leader when I was a kid. And she was a Cub leader for a long time, and then she was a Beaver leader, and then she was a Venture leader. Like, she was a really good leader for a troop. But as she was getting older, leave that weekly stuff for somebody younger and whatever. And she took care of, for months, getting ready for these camps for the entire whoever's there. And so I bust down the door. I'm gonna say I remember that vividly, and it was an apartment building, so it wasn't the easiest door to bust down. Bust down the door. I didn't bother, thinking about it right now, I never even thought about this before. I didn't bother going and trying to find the super. I don't know. I just put my shoulder against the door and a couple tries. And I found my mom there. So so she wasn't with us anymore then. And then we go through the process after that. So this is where my whole story is going. There's processes that happen in these specific instances, that sometimes you are giving lots of notice before it happens. And my mom, she was packing for a Cub Camp on Friday, and I found her on Saturday. So it's like not a lot of pre time to say getting ready, preparing for it, and this is the give and take of something happening instantly and something happen over a long period of time before you're at that point. And there's no saying which way is better, because it's not better. None of it's better, but it is part of life, and then you have to deal with it. So, to be said, nobody's unalived right now. So in case you're worrying about this, there's nobody unalived right now. But we are in the process right now of getting to the point, because my mother-in-law is 94 years old. She's been in a home since last May, and she had a stroke yesterday morning. And we've been seeing gradual what we'll call degradation for a long time now. I mean, she hasn't left the home since May. I mean, there's lots of details that we don't have to go into, but she hasn't left, and she's kind of confined to her bed for a long time. And it's just a roller coaster, right? And so we've been, as a family, as the immediate family, Josh, me, and Mom, Sandy, have been trying to do our best in this situation. And when we got the news, well, we saw it coming, and so I have not had the emotional, I won't say stability because we're pretty stable, but the emotional wherefore at this point to make videos this week. And even after yesterday, well, today's Saturday, yeah, so it was yesterday morning I got the call. But we saw it coming, that I haven't wanted passionately, and this is where my passion and my hobby comes in. My hobby right now is on hold. For the most part, I'm going to putter in this room just to have some clear headspace. But it's not like, I'm so passionate about this, I'm going to share it. Look at what I built here. I want to share it with my friends, right? I'm not there right now, and so this has been, my videos here have been absolutely passionate about, hey, I built all the classic base sets, I'm gonna show the world. So and have the passion about it, and look at my monorails, hey, my monorails, you know, not making it about me, but hey, I have this passion and I want to share with people because I like other people's passion. Anyway, so I haven't been passionate about being in this legroom this past week. I haven't, and it's not like the hobby's waning from me. No. but what has happened is life happens, and so because of life sometimes gets in the way, if you want to say that, of what you want to do, and you put your focuses elsewhere, and for a while. And so, but I also don't want to leave you guys hanging, because usually I make a video, quote unquote, a day, or just a few days go by without a video being uploaded, and I'm going, oh, I haven't uploaded a video in a week. So I better inform my friends as to why I haven't made a video in a week. And I spent 25-30 minutes talking about it. So, because when it comes to these tough topics, I will go off on tangents. So that was yesterday. We were in kind of a pattern where we're now going to the point. But the phone call I just got was from Sandy. She went over to see her mom this morning. So she's going, and Mom's perfectly fine, according to liaising and communicating and interfacing and interacting with Sandy, which she was not yesterday. Mom was not there yesterday, but she's back to her old self today. She's still in bed. I mean, she's not getting out of bed really ever again, unless she's helped to a wheelchair, but she's not walking like she did when she lived with us and, you know, being around the house. But she's clearly communicating to Sandy right now. Sandy just called me because yesterday was like down and today is up. So we're going the ebbs and flows. People go through this. I had a very good and dear friend of mine lose her dad over an entire year, and I can't even imagine that. And he was a good and dear friend of mine. It might have not seemed like it at the time because of extenuating circumstances, but I did appreciate him, but I was removed myself from the family for no reason we have to go into right now. And so I was not there, but I heard. and that he was disappearing throughout a year, and then he finally was not with us anymore. And I can't even imagine that kind of, I won't say trauma, that kind of emotional roller coaster, and the burden, not a burden, it's not a burden, it's the emotional stress it puts on people that are close to it. And I know from my my life, like I lost my Oma, my dad's mom, when I was 5. I was 5. Oma was gone. I love Oma. I run over there and get druppies. She was always there for Christmas. She always gave the hugs. She was a wonderful Oma. I'm 5. I didn't have the emotional understanding that I have now. So it didn't impact me as much. It impacted my dad, for sure. He lost his mom. When my grandma died, I was much older. I was in my teens. Didn't have my license yet. When grandma died, grandma loved all us grandkids, and we were over there all the time. So grandma passing away was pretty tough for me, because I'm losing my grandma. Like, I lost my Oma when I was 5. I lost my grandma when I was in my early teens. I lost my Opa, my dad's dad, when I was in my late teens. He was great, but he didn't speak a lot of English because he was Opa, by Dutch, and you know, but he was my dad's dad, and I knew of him, and he was a role model and a peer, and that was tough to watch my dad go through that. I was more feeling for my dad in that situation than I was for me, because Opa was a wonderful man. When we had moved away from our little tiny village of Cowdaceville and bought a house elsewhere, I didn't see my Opa a lot. But I'm busy living my teenage life, so Opa wasn't close to me, but I loved the man. I loved who he was and who he, the role model that he exuded. Worked all the time, and he was pleasant, and he was humorous with us kids. He loved the grandkids, just like Oma did. So it was sad for me, but it was very sad for my dad, and I was feeling for my dad through that ordeal, and helped where I could. When Grandpa died, Grandpa didn't know who I was. My mom's dad, when he died, he was 75. He didn't know who I was for the last 10 years of his life. And he was good with us kids, us grandkids. He was always smiling, and we go camping together when we were kids. Like, when we went camping, a lot of times, Grandma and Grandpa were there with my mom and dad and my cousins from my mom's side of the family. How many people out there get to go camping with their grandparents? Like, and because of the situation of my mom's family, where my mom's younger brothers and sisters were decades younger than she was. My Uncle Ted's 3 years older than me. My Uncle Ted and my Uncle Steve and my Aunt Sue, my Uncle Ray, are just not much older than me, and they come over and we played together as cousins basically, but they're my uncles and aunts. And so when we were camping, I'm playing with my uncles and aunts. They're all there with all my friends from the scuba clubs and all that stuff. My uncles and aunts were there, my grandma and grandpa were there. That doesn't happen often in people's families, right? And so Grandpa was great, Grandma was great, Oma was great, Opa was great. But I was a kid. I don't think I had any grandparent past the age of like 21, and that's expected. It happens a lot. And so when my mom passed away, yeah, it was tough. But it was. I talked to her a couple days before. She's packing for Gov Camp. Hey, Mom, you're going to Gov, and she's only 69. Like, Opa was 92. Like, seriously. Like, I think. Hopefully. 92 Opa is, and I have a picture. I had a picture of Opa. I think I took up to see Sandy. We were talking about the family, so it's not in my room right now. But I have a picture of Opa prior to 1900. And usually in this room. It sits there on my wall because I think it's great. My Opa was just fantastic. He lived to be 92. He was born in 1895. He lived through the Boer War. Not that was a big deal for Holland, I don't think. But he lived through World War I, the Great Depression, World War II. He lived through the evolution of horse and carriage, because in 1895, there's no cars in Holland. They put people on the moon. like, Opa lived through all that, and I was able to, broken English, speak to him about it. Like, he lived through it. He lived through a war. lived through 2 wars, and he lived through bringing his family to Canada back in 1948. He packs up his family. I'm going to go to Canada. So after the war, he settles in Little Winona, and like so I love, and so tangents upon tangents. My mom packing for a Gov camp Friday night. Saturday morning I found her, and then the process after the fact begins, and that was tough for us kids, as it's going to be for anybody if you're close to your parents and appreciate who your parents are, because some people don't give a rat's patootie about their parents. And again, every situation is different, and I'm not going to make anything about that. A lot of people that I know have no communication with their parents, and that wasn't our family, but that's their family. And you have to, in your situation, you have to deal with what is presented to you by other people, including family members. And this is why I always come back to the quick tangent, is that family is not blood relatives. It doesn't necessarily have to be blood relatives. For me, I'm the luckiest guy on the planet that my family, my blood relatives, and my friends are the best people I've ever known. My dad's always said, and I've used this expression before, water reaches its own level. You are who you hang around. I have by far the best family, not just my immediate family, my brother, sister, mom, and dad, but the extended family, my grandma, grandpa, oma, opa, all my uncles and aunts, all my cousins. I got like 40 cousins. Like 40 cousins. And then they get married, so I got like 80 cousins. So it's like, and then they have kids, so I got my cousins' kids, and now my cousins' kids are having kids, and they're wonderful. I love them all. I don't see them nearly as much as I should. So, but it is what it is. It's a huge family. It's not the biggest family on the planet, but it's a huge family, and we were all close growing up for both sides of the family, my dad's side and my mom's side, and even cross-contamination. So, like I have pictures of us camping, and there's uncles and brothers or cousins from my dad's side, my cousins, my dad's brothers and kids and whatever, and my mom's side, and we're camping at Manitoulin Island. My cousin Judy's there. Hi, Judy. like it was the cross-contamination of my family growing up was extraordinary, and it was wonderful. But anyway, so I wanted to talk in 5 minutes or less about what's going on in my life right now. And right now I am, as Dobson would say, and I don't have that much respect for him, but whatever, it's a whole other story. As Dobson would say, focus on the family. And right now Sandy's over there with her mom and being a little joyous, more joyous today than she was yesterday, about the prognosis. But again, the doc hasn't seen her yet. We don't know what's going on. It could be tomorrow, it could be a month from now, it could be a year from now. Be right back.